Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk was the OB23 reveal show, and there's an absolute ton of stuff to go over, such as visual Conquest improvements, game pacing changes, a soft rework to Aladdin, a new event, new items, and more. As well as, of course, Daji and her aspect, which I already have a showcase video for those out on the channel already that I'll link down below. This is one of the biggest patches we've had in a while, so without further ado, let's jump into the recap. First up, we have a round of Conquest visual improvements, which are looking really good in my opinion. They've done some lighting adjustments, added god rays to the jungle, updated the textures for a lot of the environment, like on the floors and rocks, which look a whole lot better. There's not too much difference in how the game looks in the lanes, but in the jungle it's a night and day difference versus what we have right now for sure. They said this is just the first round of a bunch of Conquest changes that are in the works, and there will be more visual improvements next patch, as well as some gameplay changes as well. The map is really starting to look pretty good now in my opinion, especially in the jungle areas, and once these global improvements have been done, they can hopefully start adding in things like small details like Smite 1 maps had, with like barrels, crates, statues, water features, all that kind of stuff to add a bit of personality to the map. After that, I think the map will be truly as good or better than Smite 1 from a visual standpoint. But moving on, let's talk about the new event coming to the game with this patch, which will be Yule Fest. This event will largely follow the same template as the Reaping event that we just had, in terms of having themed travelers and reward skins for getting enough candies. The ultimate reward for this patch will be Snow Day Scylla. It wasn't ready to be showcased yet today, but that will be the ultimate reward for the event, similar to the Shark skin. There's also a title at 2 candies, an Aladdin Santa skin at 3 candies, and a loading frame at 4. As with the Reaping, 2 candies will be available for free, with one in the Wandering Path, which is resetting this update, and another in the Advent Calendar, which is a free reward path being introduced in this update. This will run from the patch launch on November 18th through to December 26th, and has 24 days of rewards, so you'll need to log in 24 of those 38 days to complete it. They didn't show all the rewards here, which I guess is in theme with an Advent Calendar, but the first 3 rewards were shown as diamonds, more diamonds, and a cutesy avatar chest. Presumably the rewards get more valuable towards the end of the calendar. On the topic of Aladdin though, he is the god that will be receiving the teased soft rework in this patch. Pon, the lead designer for Aladdin, wrote up a lengthy piece on why they're making these changes, which I'll put on screen right now, but the long and short of it is that Aladdin has been consistently the lowest win rate and one of the lowest pick rate characters in the entire game on average, and he pretty much only sees success in high level play, to the point where having him on your team is usually a liability unless you're playing at a very high level. So the intent of these changes is to try and preserve that high level gameplay as much as possible, while making Aladdin more palatable to the average player. Again, pause the video and give this a read if you're interested. It's definitely worth hearing Pon's thoughts on this, but let's get into the actual changes, of which there are a lot and this will take a while, so if you don't care about Aladdin, skip to this time in the video. First up, we have general changes, where they have increased his intelligence contribution to basic attacks from 20% to 30%, as well as increased his base health and health per level a little bit. For the passive, they have reworked the Wealth Wish to now provide 33 gold per god kill or assist instead of 100. They've removed the immediate 250 gold entirely, but he now gains 7.5% more gold from all sources for the duration, so essentially it's less reliant on popping it at the right moment before a kill or two, and much less prone to being completely wasted compared to before, as you'll at least get the 7.5% bonus gold from farming camps or minions for a while. For his genie charges, they're making it so you have 1 maximum, but they charge faster and have a cooldown refund on kills, 5 seconds for gods, 1 second for non-gods. This will make his all-in burst less scary, but he will consistently have a genie charge available more often. For his 1, they've made a variety of changes, such as increasing the pre-fire, minimum charge, and refire times to make it less bursty. They've also increased the base damage of the ability across the board, but nerfed its scaling across the board. This lessens some of the mechanical intensive quickfire AA cancels and makes the ability damage a bit more consistent, as you're less reliant on items and having a good build for the ability to hit hard. For the 2, they've increased the base damage a bit in the early ranks, and on the refire punches, they've increased the scaling by 5% of both. His 3 is getting more intelligent scaling on the landing damage, and increased knockback duration, but it will now knock enemies away instead of straight up, making for less instant kills off of the knock-up, as you'll have to get back in range to land your follow-up. By which point, the enemy has probably already landed from the knockback and is actionable again, so they have a lot more counterplay. And finally, the ultimate is getting probably the biggest changes here outside of maybe the passive. They have completely removed the healing from the ability for both Aladdin and the enemy. Instead, Aladdin and the enemy will both gain a shield equal to 35% of Aladdin's max HP. The combatant/non-combatant interactions have been altered a bit. Previously, combatant combatants, which is Aladdin and the initial lamp target, dealt 10% more damage to and took 10% less damage from non-combatants. Now, non-combatants will simply deal and take 33% less damage from and to everything, including the original combatants, so they're more like sort of spectators to the fight, I guess. You're still going to be impactful for sure, but you're going to be way less impactful than the original two combatants. They have also increased the base damage and scaling on the ult substantially while buffing its cooldown to 90 seconds at all ranks when it was 110 down to 100 before, but it now also has a 30-second cooldown increase if the lamp is successful. And finally, the interact range to enter the lamp has been increased substantially, which is intended to make it so people aren't as grouped up when they leave the lamp for like a big Scylla ult or whatever. We've definitely seen that happen a lot. But that was a lot of changes to get through. From my perspective, this changes a few key things about Aladdin. First, it adds more counterplay to his main engage combo, since the 3 now knocks away and the 1 is slower to cast, so it doesn't make for such amazing AA cancels. This also has the side effect of making strength less good for Aladdin. Worse AA cancels means strength gets worse for him, along with some other intelligence buffs that are coming here. This likely will result in intelligence being Aladdin's primary build option after these changes. At least that's what I would expect. Another key thing this does is make Aladdin less spiky. What I mean by spiky is that he either does everything or does nothing. Changes like increasing his base damage but reducing his scaling, removing some of his high execution combos, reworking Wealth Wish to be less reliant on chaining kills together, removing the health reset from his ultimate. All of these changes add up and will make him a lot more consistent in his output overall. His highs will certainly be lower, but his lows will certainly be higher. The final major thing I see from these changes is that his ultimate is likely now an engage tool, not something you'll use to reset mid-fight like you do right now. It now does solid damage that is actually relevant because the enemy doesn't heal anymore. The cooldown is much lower on a whiff or beads, so fishing for a lamp to start the fight is less punishing. Previously, you would never start the fight with this ability because you'd want to wait for beads and or movement options to get burned, otherwise your ult does nothing. Now, at least if your ult did nothing, you got a solid chunk of damage and it's on a lower cooldown than before. But yeah, that's the Aladdin changes. This was discussed a lot in the Ambassador Discord, and I generally saw a range of opinions in there. My personal thoughts after seeing these changes is that he will definitely be a lot less exciting to play and have some of his skill ceiling removed, which I don't love, but these changes will shift his playstyle a lot to the point where it will be like learning a new character, I think. So that's exciting in itself, and even though these aren't changes that I personally love, I can see the value of doing this for the player base at large, given how abysmal his performance and pick rate stats were for the majority of people. So yeah, overall, I do have mixed feelings about this, but generally leaning towards positive, I think. It'll be interesting to see how he shakes out after this. Moving on though, next up we have a new pack of teleporter effects, which are the Smite cards. Yeah, for those of you who are curious why they didn't do these when they did the initial Smite card Traveler, they always planned to when they were in the works, but a teleporter effects is much more work to get done than a ward skin, so these took a bit more time. Sticking with cosmetics, we have some new skins for this update, which will all be for the Yule Fest event, with our first one being a brand new skin for Anubis called Festive Nitwit. This of course comes with prisms, with those being Holly Berry, Grumbles, and Krampus. This Traveler does come with a candy for the Yule Fest as well, and Kilgoon said that these will now just be automatically given to you once you buy the Traveler instead of having to spend your market coins on them. This also comes with a Nitwit Announcer Pack and the Home for the Holidays recall skin. Next up is a classic skin for Xbalanque, which is the Darkest Night, which of course comes with 3 prisms, those being a Black Mirage, Ivory Oath, and Wrathborn. This one also comes with a candy and the Darkest Night title. And finally for skins, we have the Royal Blue Traveler, which is a bit different as this one comes with the Moonlit Flame Pele skin, and this is a heroic skin, so basically recolored here. And for that reason, Kilgoon said this will be cheaper than a normal Traveler. This also comes with a candy, the King and Queen titles, an animated badge, and a loading frame. Next up, we have a few Conquest gameplay changes to talk about, with the first one being that the Jungle Healing and Mana Restore effect on speed buff is being moved to Jungle Starter items, so you will now always have that effect as a jungler, and it's not reliant on you having your speed buff. This is something I've called for in the game for a long time, so it's really nice to see this change. Also, other roles that get a speed buff through other means, like the rotating buff camps, won't be getting that free healing anymore, which I think is also a good side effect of this. There have also been some kill formula adjustments, as they've been getting a lot of feedback that a lead built over a long period of time can be wiped out very quickly by a single shutdown. They still think that shutdown should be very rewarding due to the difficulty of getting one, but they felt like it was too far in the other direction previously, and are making some some changes. The base XP reward for a kill is going down slightly, and they are decreasing the inferior-superior multiplier a bit, which, if that sounds like Latin to you, I don't blame you. This essentially means that kills on enemies who are behind are worth a bit more, and kills on enemies that are ahead are worth a bit less now. They're also changing respawn timers a bit, with the per level respawn timer increase going from 3 seconds to 2.5, so at level 20 that will be 10 seconds less of a respawn time from your level element specifically. Other factors like the base respawn time and overtime will still have an impact, which, speaking of, they are also decreasing the overtime threshold from 30 minutes to 20 minutes. Every minute of overtime adds 1 second to respawn timers, so that will start adding up at 20 minutes now instead of 30, resulting in 10 seconds extra to respawn timers by 30 minutes compared to what we have now. When you pair this with the decrease to respawn timers of around 10 seconds from your level ups, essentially respawn timers will be shorter in the early game, but about the same as they are now post 30 minutes. Base teleporters are getting some small adjustments, with their cooldown going up from 210 to 240, and using them before the match now incurs a 10-second cooldown instead of the normal cooldown, so you can use these to get to your starting position much faster. They're also making some adjustments to the Moonlight phase, with the spawn rate of shards at the ritual site now being increased by 25% up to 150% based on how many allies are standing on it. This change specifically was feedback I gave in the Ambassador Discord, so I'm happy to see this implemented. Personally, I felt like the ritual took way too long, and it felt like you were standing around doing nothing when you could have been farming camps or taking Gold Fury or whatever, so now if you put several people on the ritual site, you can take it much faster. They've also fixed the ritual site having a delay on spawning shards when it changes hands, and will now spawn shards every 2 seconds while active regardless of if anyone is stood on it, so even if there's a fight going on somewhere else on the map at the time, when that's done, you will find a bunch of shards already on the point once you rotate back to it. There's also some lane minion QOL coming in this update, aiming to make minion movement feel smoother and more deliberate. This is another thing I called out to the devs in the Ambassador Discord, so again, it's great to see this feedback being acted on. They've increased the animation smoothing on minions, fixed them not animating when they first come into view. They've adjusted the formation spread of waves so that they now more consistently form a line perpendicular to their target, rather than spreading out like they do sometimes right now. They can also no longer backstep after falling into formation, which I think is what was causing the melees and archers to be further apart in Smite 2 than they were in Smite 1, which was leading to some abilities not being able to hit a full wave when they could in Smite 1, such as Bacchus Bellyflop. In terms of movement, minions will now follow each other much more closely when moving down the lane, which is another good change, and they have lowered their acceleration values, which should result in less jittery and unexpected movements from minions, and they've also made it so minions don't instantly recover from being hit as well. Melees and archers have also had their attack ranges reduced slightly. There's a few more minion changes here as well, but these are already live in game, they just weren't documented on previous patch notes. They increased the hostile target decay time from 1.5 seconds to 2. Basically, this is the minions' aggro time, where they attack you before returning to targeting enemy minions once you aggro them by hitting the enemy god. This is another direct point of feedback that I gave about minions, that it's actually really important to solo lane, as many characters need this to group up the wave for certain abilities to hit all 6 that they can't normally. They also reduced the range at which minions can target other minions. They fixed archers prioritizing the tower from outside of its radius, which again is another point of direct feedback I gave, as it felt like archers would just randomly run past you into your tower and cost you gold when they should have been aggroed on you. And finally, they fixed an area in solo lane where minions would path around an invisible object, which is something I've seen happen quite a bit as well, as it causes the wave to split and walk around the tower in 2 different groups, which was really annoying. This might sound like a lot just for some minion QOL, but this is the kind of stuff people talk about when they say Smite 2, quote, feels weird compared to Smite 1, and as I've mentioned, this is something I specifically brought up to the devs not too long ago, so it's really great to see them address this quickly. But moving on, we have some new items to talk about, as they are doing another pass on anti-heal in this patch. No, straight up healing reduction is not coming back to the game, but they are adding some new soft healing counter options, and also adding an anti-heal tab to the item store. In terms of general goals here, the team feels like god healing is in a good spot, but item healing and lifesteal is a bit high, so a lot of the items they're introducing here will give you a benefit based on any kind of healing, as opposed to something like Brawler's Beatstick that only benefits you if a god ability heal is used. The first new item is Stygian Anchor, which is aimed at tanks. This costs 2450 gold and comes with 30 of each protections and 30 basic attack power. On dealing or taking god damage, you apply a stack of Stygian Sludge to the enemy for 5 seconds, up to 5 stacks, and these are once per target per ability, so if you hit 3 people with an ability, you'll apply a stack to all of them. Each stack provides minus 3% movement speed, minus 4% attack speed, and minus 4% healing stolen for a max of 15, 20, and 20 respectively. Divine Ruin is being brought back to the anti-heal category in this patch as well. It still has the chain lightning effect, but it will now mark enemies hit for 6 seconds, and every 50 health health at heal while marked will reduce the Chain Lightning's activation cooldown by 0.25 seconds. Kin's Blade is being brought into the fold as an ADC anti-heal option and is being changed quite a bit. It now tracks healing received by nearby enemies and applies a stack to them every 100 health they restore for 6 seconds up to 6 stacks max. When you basic attack them, you will now deal a flat 1.5% max health instead of just based on the difference, plus the highest value of either 7.5% of your health difference or 0.5% max health per stack on the enemy. And finally, we have Avenging Blade, which is going to be the jungler anti-heal option. It's getting a new icon in this update, which is nice. It was using the recolored Witchblade icon for way too long. The actual changes though are the slow being reduced from 5% per stack to 3.5, the same change for the protection reduction as well, but they have increased the debuff duration from 3 seconds to 4, and the debuff now works anywhere on the map, but is twice as effective in the jungle or if the enemy restores 5% max health while near you. That's about it for the recap though. One thing to note is that the PTS should be live as this video goes out, and Artio's base kit will be available, but not her aspect. She will also be invisible until you stand switch, and that's a known issue. The full balance notes will be showcased on Friday's show, and they did mention that this will be a pretty big balance patch, so stay tuned for that as well, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.